Hello, 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 and welcome to the Pretty Smart Business Podcast. So, today we have a guest who is a woman after my own heart. So, I am the queen of profitability. Well, she is the queen of business insurance. And everybody who meets me in person knows that I love to talk about insurance because I am the biggest nerd. But, anyways, her name is Angela Duncan, and she is a leading expert in personal finance with over 25 years of experience in banking, money advising, and entrepreneurship. After co-owning a top 10 Remax office, that's real hard. So she's pretty badass. Um, and with over 2 billion in sales, what? 2 billion with a B, and building and exiting an insurance company, Angela now helps entrepreneurs protect their business through strategic insurance solutions. She's also a #1 Amazon best-selling author of Empower Your Money and the host of the Empower Her Money podcast. Passionate about financial literacy and generational wealth, Angela is dedicated to helping others rewrite their financial future. I'm super excited about Angela Duncan. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to.
Yeah, so we clap for you. We clap for you.
Yes, I love that. And someone who likes to talk about insurance as well. It's going to be a fun conversation today.
I know. We're going to have to make sure it doesn't go too nerdy for the audience. Okay, so this is a good question. Why do entrepreneurs often overlook their business insurance, and why is that really a critical mistake for success?
Yeah, so I think a lot of times when you start on your entrepreneur journey, you're super excited to launch your business and you don't know what you don't know. So until someone starts talking to you about insurance and why you need insurance as an entrepreneur, it's not something that you are excited to talk about in the beginning. It's the same thing as like tucking away money for your future and your retirement accounts. It's just not your focus. So oftentimes it gets overlooked, but it's so vital for you as an entrepreneur and business owner to have insurance in place.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those, I always call it one of those non-sexy parts of business, right? Like so many people love talking about marketing. I feel like marketing and sales like sexy, right? Like, ooh, let's do it. But insurance is like so like mer, 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 mer. Um, so what is a good, do you have a fun, like what is your favorite story of where somebody maybe didn't have the right insurance or something happened and it could have completely been prevented?
Yeah. So, we are in an online era, right? Most of us
Mm-hmm.
have online businesses. You conduct sales via Zoom, you collect credit card information, and then you get hacked. And you're like, oh no, what information is out there? What did I do with my clients? And they don't
Mm-hmm.
think about that there's insurance policies that you can have in place. One, to help your client should that situation occur. And two, probably just as important is to protect you as the business owner. If you do get hacked or if someone accuses you of stealing information, we need to make sure that you have those insurance policies in place, because let's face it, we live in this cyber area where AI is coming and you can hire people from all over the world, but not everyone is ethical. And so we've got to make sure that we're protecting our clients' information so that if that does occur, that we can help reimburse them or cover costs that they might incur because, well, we just live in this online world.
Yeah. One, it's good to know too, like about your insurance. I think so many people, they go online or they talk to an agent and they do a couple pieces of paper and then they're just like, well, I'm good. But a lot of times it's deeper than that. And you kind of have to, I always say you have to know enough to be dangerous, to know what your coverage really is and how to at least like read your declarations page and understand what it's saying. Because I see so many people that don't have the correct coverage. Like for instance, I have a client when we started working together, he had a truck, he's a plumber, he had a truck full of all his plumbing equipment, and his truck was covered. It had, vehicle insurance, but he didn't have an inland marine policy, so his equipment was not covered. And that's a huge thing. And I see it all the time. So what are some kind of things that somebody can look at their policy and just be able to see like, yes, I'm covered, no, I'm not, maybe I should take a deeper look?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go online, you can get a quote, but most times they often ask you some basic questions and they don't
Yeah.
go in depth about your business. So, one, obviously, when we talk about a declarations page, for people who may not understand what that is, it's really just a document that shows what is covered and what is excluded from your policy. So, it's important, especially to look at the exclusions to see what's excluded from a policy, because you might
Hmm.
think you have coverage for something, but that agent didn't ask you that question, so it's automatically excluded unless they put it into the policy. So same thing with
Hmm.
that example you just gave about the plumber with the vehicles. Well, when we put in the vehicle in our systems, it might give us a value. As an insurance agent, you need to make sure that you are making sure that value is correct. I had an instance where I had a client with a fleet of trucks, and we were during the COVID time period where they weren't producing new trucks, so those older
Hmm.
trucks went up in value, and we needed to adjust the value that was within the insurance policy, because sure enough, they had someone come and steal one of those trucks. And had we not increased that coverage, they would have been paid out what the old value was, and it didn't match what the current times were. So it's also important for us insurance agents to be meeting with our clients regularly to make sure that the coverage they have in place is still accurate.
Yeah, I actually see that a lot in workman's comp insurance.
Mm.
So your employer insurance for your workers, because people will be growing, but they'll put something in place at the beginning of the year and they'll have like 3 employees, but then at the end of the year they have 30, and then they get a huge bill and they're like, what the hell? Why do I have this huge bill? And it's because of the audit. So, how often do you think you should be talking to your insurance agent?
At least twice a year. And that is a great example, too. The audit that
Hmm.
comes at the end of an insurance policy. A lot of people that own businesses don't know that that happens, and their insurance agent fails to prepare them for that in the beginning. So I like to check in with my clients at least every 6 months, depending on the business. If they're in growth mode, like a really highly growth mode, then we'll check in quarterly, because we may need to add some coverages or take away some coverages. But, like, for example, here in the state of Florida, you don't need
Oof.
by law workers comp until you have at least 5 employees. Well, I think you should
Really?
have it. Yeah, you should have it from day one if you have employees. But if you don't know that as a business owner and your insurance agent doesn't explain that to you, then you just don't know. So this is one of those catch 22. You don't know what you don't know until you need it. Well, the professional insurance agent should be going over all of the options for you, and then you as the business owner decide what's best for you.
Yeah, for real, that is not the case in Colorado. The minute you hire your first employee, you must have workman's comp, and you also have to do this thing. We have a new, I don't know if it's necessarily insurance. It kind of is. It's a family medical leave benefit called family. So you got to sign up for that. So there's a lot here. You got to do the minute you hire your first W-2. Oh man, 5? That's crazy to me how many people are rolling around with no coverage. Okay, let's talk about that. What happens? Who is liable in the event something happens and you're not covered?
Yeah, that's the business owner. So in the beginning, you think you don't have a lot of a lot of liability or a lot of exposure when it comes to a lawsuit, an employee getting hurt, vehicles being damaged or stolen. But if you do have an instance where you are not covered, then that attorney on the other side can come after your personal assets. So say you spent 10, 15 years in the corporate world and now you're coming in and you're doing your own business. Well, you might have personal assets. You might have rental properties, bank accounts, investments, and those could
Hmm.
be at risk if you don't have the proper insurance in place when it comes to your business. So understanding that as well is really important for business owners.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so then that brings me to the question of tell everyone what an umbrella is and why, if you have any sort of assets, you like must have one.
Yeah. So let's talk about both sides. First, there's the personal umbrella. An umbrella, just think of it as the visual umbrella, right? It goes above your current policy. So if you have an umbrella on your personal side, it increases the liability coverage, the lawsuit coverage for you on a home, on an auto. but you have to understand that you can also have one on your business too. So say, for example, you gave that plumbing example, right? So you have a
Hmm.
plumbing business, you have coverage for your plumbing stuff, you have, coverage for the vehicles, you have coverage for the business, you have coverage for the workers that have, that you have employed. Well, you put an extra layer above all of those policies as an umbrella policy just to increase that liability. So should a lawsuit happen, because a lot of insurance policies have a max that they're going to pay out, we put an
Hmm.
umbrella on top of that. So it gives you that additional layer, and it's really inexpensive when you do that package that way. That way, worst case scenario happens, you can go to sleep every night knowing that your company, your employees, your business is protected by having that additional layer of liability coverage.
Yeah, because you never know what's going to happen. Like, for instance, here's a reason why you always need workers' comp. I had a client once who it was a lawn care business, and they had one of those riding lawnmowers, and they're designed so that the minute you step off of them, they stop. Well, they had Jerry. Something happened with this one, and they had decided to like jerry rig it so that it kept going all the time. This was mistake number one. So then the guy like ran it up onto rocks, and mistake number two. And then of course the compound, we got to mistake number three, which is where he decided, because he couldn't get it off the rocks, to use his foot to push it.
Mm.
You might know the moral of this story. He ended up with no foot. So,
Oh, that's
and
good.
workers comp, they did have workers comp, thank freaking goodness, because this guy now has no foot. He can't do the job for the rest of his life. He's permanently damaged. He's permanently injured. I mean, that would be a bankrupting
Mhm.
incident for the employer if they didn't have the correct coverage, right?
Correct. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and you say to yourself, no one's that stupid. Well, I'm telling you, like, I'm at this guy. So there are people out there who totally are going to cut off their own foot accidentally. It happens. It happens.
And I don't know about you, but if you drive up like our interstate in Florida, 90% of our billboards are attorneys. They're out there. They want to help you go after other people for money, but
Oh,
they're in the business to make money too. So it's so important for you to have the right insurance policy in place, because you don't have eyes on your business 100% of the time. You
yeah.
might have an employee who thinks that they're making a good judgment call, but they don't, and it's not their business that's going to get hit should you have that lawsuit in place. So yeah, that's a great example to, mitigate some risk out in the field, but you've got to get with a professional insurance agent who asks the right questions to make sure that you have those coverages in place for the what if scenarios.
Yeah, I always say that if you don't have the right coverage, you're reliant upon everyone else's judgment. And that just seems way scarier to me.
Right. And even from a podcast host standpoint, I mean, how many
Mhm.
podcasts are there out there who don't have liability coverage? Something you say, someone could come back and say, oh, defamation, you said something incorrect about my character, and they can sue you for a dollar amount. Well, if you don't have insurance in place for your podcast, they could come after any other assets that you have. So it's just so many different avenues that people can come after you, unfortunately. But online coaches, same thing. Anything you say, someone says you copied their information and you caused harm to their business, well, that's a
Mhm.
lawsuit and it comes after your insurance. If you don't have insurance, guess who's paying it? You are.
Yeah. Well, and then also, it's the cost of defending yourself.
Mhm.
So most policies, if you have the correct insurance and it's a covered loss, they will defend you. And insurance companies do not like to pay out. So they will defend you. They will actually pay more money to their lawyers defending you than they would to the other person, because they need to make a point. So
Yeah, depends on the case. I've seen insurance companies just pay out to get rid of someone on the other side because they knew it wouldn't be worth their time. But that's why insurance is in place, so that they can, help defend you. That's what we pay them to do for us if we need them.
yeah, but they have them, they have that ability and that responsibility. But I know, I used to own a concrete repair, coating, and polishing business, and one time we had somebody come after us, and we didn't have the correct coverage in place. This was many, many moons ago, and it was completely junk, right? It was complete junk. But we still had to defend ourselves, right? We can't just be like, this is junk, because that doesn't really work in courts. So we still had to hire an attorney and hire this, and it cost us so much money and time and mental energy dealing with this, where if we had just, our agent at that time was terrible, just the worst. But if we had had the correct coverages in place, we could have just been like, here's the proof, insurance company, go handle it.
Yeah. And statistically speaking, from a
Mhm.
female entrepreneur standpoint, we tend to overlook things a little bit more, meaning we give more grace. We say, oh, that's okay. So we open ourselves up for liability a lot more often than our male counterparts because we do give more. So I think it's just so much more important for us females to make sure that we are ensuring that we're educating each other like you are on this podcast. You're putting all of this information out there so that we can be educated, so that we can
Mhm.
protect ourselves, because we've in this world of business, we live longer. We want to make sure that our assets are protected, and that's why the insurance conversation is so vital, especially for a female entrepreneur.
Yeah, okay, let's unpack that a little bit. So what do you mean when you say that we open ourselves up to liability more? Because I've never heard this, so this is like extremely interesting to me. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I'll take it from an employee standpoint. We'll start
Okay.
there. I've had a business owner that had employees that was a female, and she would stay late or maybe give some overtime without getting paid, or just go, what we think is above and beyond. But if she stays later and say that property owner didn't have the proper lights outside, then she's leaving at nighttime because, she thinks she's giving and she's working so hard, but it's dark outside and something happens to her. Well, that liability falls on that business owner, falls on that property owner, but she thought she was just doing something nice. And I think that we are just big hearted people. We tend to give more. And so it does open us up to liability oftentimes, because we're not thinking about, oh, well, I'm giving, but that could open the business owner to more liability. But it's just not that. That thought didn't cross our mind. We just think that we have a big heart and we're trying to help people. We don't understand there might be consequences on the other side.
I like it. Okay, I feel you. So how can the right coverage boost our confidence in business decision making?
For me, it's peace of mind to go to sleep at night. I mean, as an insurance agency, knowing that we educated our clients, we've given them the options, their business is covered. Now they can go out and impact the world with their business and what they do. But I know that we have given them all the right options for them to insure their business. And then as a business owner, I don't want to think about, oh, should I do this? Is it covered? A quick email to your insurance agent says, hey, I'm thinking about adding this line of business to my company. Am I covered for this? Just making sure that you have peace of mind that you can go and, focus 100% on growing your business. That way you're not worried about the insurance aspect of it, because you have a great professional on your team helping you.
Yeah, I like it. I know for me, I did sleep a lot better knowing I had the right insurance, but also just I knew like my company was protected, my employees were protected, um, and that nothing that I wasn't anticipating could come and like destroy everything we built.
Yeah. And oftentimes that's when it happens, right? You don't know what your
Hmm.
insurance covers or what it doesn't cover until you have that uh-oh moment. So pre-planning ahead of time, understanding at least the basic information. I don't want you to be able to teach an insurance class as my client, but I at least want you to know what the options are, and that you're covered as you grow your business. And again, like we talked about, just staying in communication with your insurance agent to ensure that you're
Hmm.
still protected going forward.
But you don't want your clients to be able to recite what every single number of commercial auto coverage means.
No, not at all. And sometimes I just want you to give me a phone call before
Mhm.
you do something so that we can
Mm.
have that conversation and make sure that it's covered.
Yes, preach that to the world. Yes, have conversations. So, as a fractional CFO, I always tell people, I'm like, please, before you sign like a monetary contract, talk to me. And I have clients that just are like, yes, I did this. I'm like, no, you were supposed to call. Thanks for calling me ahead of time.
But it goes back to knowing your numbers, right? Knowing your
Hmm.
numbers as a fractional CFO is very
Yeah.
important, but also knowing what the insurance costs could be later versus what you're paying
Hmm.
now. It's a huge
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, I mean, and I see so many times too, especially with commercial contracts, people they look at the price that they're getting for this job. They don't look at the insurance requirements for that contractor ahead of time. And sometimes, like I saw one the other day that these people wanted a $5 million umbrella. That's a pretty big
Yeah.
umbrella for a
Oh,
small contractor to then have to fund.
right. I have a client who does a client appreciation event every year, and they do it at a hockey arena. So this is like a national team
Ooh,
hockey arena because they have an
nice.
agreement with them. But they need to do an insurance policy, which is a day of event insurance policy, meaning it's covering the arena. You have to buy that insurance policy to cover your clients at the arena for the day of, and they had to have a $5 million policy. Not a lot of insurance carriers offer a $5 million limit. So we did have to do some digging. We found the policy for them, ended up not being as expensive as I thought it was going to be, which is great. But you really have to ask the right questions to make sure that the policy is the right one for what your client needs.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of times, people just they think, "Oh, I went and bought this thing on the internet, so I'm covered." And it's like, "Yeah, but there's so much nuance there. And so that's why having a great agent is so important. So, what are some top things people should ask or look for when trying to choose a good agent?
Yeah. So ask for, what is their area of expertise before you tell them
Hmm.
what your business is. Ask them
Ooh, I
for
like that.
some real examples of clients that they're helping right now. Because, I have helped contractors like the plumbers and roofers. And if your agent hasn't helped that type of client before, they don't know what kind of questions to ask you. Also, if the client is local for me, I'm going to go visit their business because they may not know what I need to know about their business in order to give them the right insurance policy. So if they have a physical location, I go do a site visit. I want to see what the lighting looks like. What does the pavement look like? Do they have proper locks? Do they have proper security for that building? What kind of equipment might be in that building? So then I can give them all of the options that are available to them, again, so that they can decide what they want to have insured for their business. But if I hadn't come out to that location and done that site visit, I don't have a full grasp understanding of that business. Now, if they're not local, I prefer to do a Zoom call, but I want them to walk their business so that I can see the same thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be right in my city for us to insure them, but I at least want to see the full picture, because the better I know you as a client, the better options I can provide to you, the better you are secured and insured, and you can go do your business.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'm realizing now that I did actually do that when I was an agent, but I don't really know many agents that do, and that's awesome. Yeah, because there's so many things that I picked up when going to clients and their businesses that I never would have known needed to be in the policy if I
Mhm.
hadn't visited.
Yeah, and I love that part. I love the discovery. It's a lot of
Hmm.
fun for me because I learned so much. I go to my carriers and I say, I've got this client, here's all of the things, and then they'll give me some options and we work together to come up with a good package. But that discovery part for me is a lot of fun. So I enjoy uncovering all of the needs so the client doesn't have to worry about the oh down the line because I didn't
Hmm.
give them the option for that line of insurance.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, and I think it's super important, what you said, to ask them their specialty beforehand, because I think a lot of people don't understand, especially in business insurance, that it's completely different than home and auto. It really is. It's a totally different ball game, and it's
Mhm.
very nuanced and very specialized and niche. And so if somebody is like, say they specialize in HOAs, they have probably no idea how to look at your plumbing company and vice versa. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Yep. And the general audience doesn't understand that if you go to an
Hmm.
agent who does home and auto, and this, like there are systems that you just plug in some information,
Yeah.
hit a button, and it gives you a bunch of quotes, right? There's
Hmm.
no such thing in our commercial industry that would do. I mean, I would love it. It would make it so much easier for us, but it doesn't happen that way. So we've got to go
Yeah.
through a full list of questions, different applications for different carriers. We spend a lot of time making sure that that quote is accurate.
Hmm.
Whereas on that personal side, you can get a quote in 5 minutes and it's going to tell you the best policy that way.
Yeah, it like literally so plug and play. But when it comes to commercial insurance, and that's why you need an agent who like knows the carriers, and that's why finding someone who is really like knows your niche is super important. So I think that was awesome that you said that, because I wasn't thinking of that, and I was like, oh my god, that's like gold. So everybody, that's gold. Find an agent who knows your niche. If you find nothing else from this topic, agent that knows your niche.
Very good. Very good
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah, I mean, it's super, super duper important. Okay. So, what other like nugget of advice can you give to new entrepreneurs in navigating insurance?
Yeah. So a lot of what I specialize in is also property insurance. So it could be anything from your warehouse to storage to apartment complexes. When you own a piece of property, the other thing about keeping your insurance agent informed is any upgrades that you do. So if you put in a new roof or a whole new electrical system, those are all things that we need to know. You spent the money on it, and there's a good chance that we can get a discount on your insurance policy. So we go back to, that at least twice a year touch point with your insurance agent. If they're not asking you for it, make sure you're reaching out to them. But every time you do upgrades on your properties, let us know and let us go out to your insurance carriers to see what kind of money we could be saving you after you did that investment to do those upgrades.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think you should look at your insurance agent as less of just, somebody who pushes paper and more of a collaborator in your
Mhm.
business, right? Um, I would say it's like one of your financial team members, and they're super important to you into looking at the whole picture, especially if you're in a high growth mode. You have to have your insurance growing with you, or you're going to end up with big bills at the end of it.
Very true. Almost like your board of, I don't want to say board of advisors because those are usually people who give you advice, but your team
Mhm.
of professionals should know
Yeah.
your business inside and out as well.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I call it like like your financial team, you know?
There you go. Love it.
Um, okay. So how can people connect with you to learn more and to get your book and your podcast and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So the podcast is called Empower Her Money because that is my focus, helping the female entrepreneurs. But I did write a book called Empower Your Money. And I provided a link, the freemoneytipsforwomen.com. If you go to that link, you can download my whole book, not just a piece of it, but the whole book for free, because my
Oh wow.
goal is to teach and educate. And the best way that we can do that is, sometimes we just need to give it away for free so that people will go grab it, hopefully implement some of the tips that you can see within the book. Because the more we know about money, the better that we can impact the world around us. And I just find that to be so true.
Yes, yes. I always say the people who have the money can do the things. So let's put more money in the hands of good people.
Yes, absolutely.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much, Angela, for joining us today. I could talk about insurance forever, but our audience would not want to listen to that. So I am so excited you were here with us today, and I cannot wait to collaborate with you more in the future.
Thank you so much for having me.